state government should be as open and accessible as your favorite state park or hiking trail. Preserving a transparent and accountable democracy is just as vital as protecting the natural wonders we cherish. Wisconsin's parks and lakes are treasures we want to safeguard for future generations. We must also care for the foundations of our democracy: openness, access, and truth. Ask yourself, what kind of Wisconsin do I want for my children? One where democracy is as accessible and inviting as our scenic trails? Supporting Wisconsin Eye is a way to make that vision a reality. Donate to wisI.org/donate or text WISI to 44321. Be as open and accessible as your favorite state
There are
park.
about 20 million committees all going on at the same time because it's end of session. So with that, I'll have the clerk take the roll.
Representative Gustafson?
Here.
Representative Vandermeer? Representative Spiros? Here. Representative Tussler? Here. Representative Madison? Here.
Fantastic. We will jump right into the first bill, which is going to be AB892, and we look like we have our authors here. So the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you. Level as possible. The reason that we're doing this and why we're here today is because in Wisconsin, you're not able to do staking and earn rewards from that. Proof of stake model is one of two ways of building a blockchain. Blockchains, super important in today's modern society. You'll hear some testimony from people that use the blockchain, whether you're an artist, whether you're an entrepreneur. It's similar to AI in that it's a tool to allow you to be more competitive in the climate of today. Wisconsin right now, we're falling behind. We're one of only a handful, maybe 4 states that doesn't allow proof of stake to build a blockchain. There's 2 ways, really, core ways of building a blockchain. One is mining, right? And that's like Bitcoin you've heard of, I'm sure, of digital mining, where you use a lot of different computing power to process complex problems, and it uses a lot of energy and resources. The other way of doing it is the proof of stake model, where you're able to stake your crypto into a blockchain, kind of as a security, and earn rewards from that. Because we don't allow that in Wisconsin, we are missing out on millions of dollars of income, taxable income. We have calculated over $4 million has been lost to Wisconsin residents who invest in proof of stake into like Ethereum or into different types of crypto, that they're not able to earn rewards like other investors in other states. This has led to different entrepreneurs and different businesses leaving Wisconsin, moving out of Wisconsin, taking their investments out of Wisconsin, taking their business out of Wisconsin. The big question is staking a security or is it a service? Well, we now have SEC guidance at the federal level expressly saying, no, proof of staking is a service. It is a service. It is a service towards building that blockchain. So we're here today to put into law that proof of stake is a service. You should be allowed to do it. We should legalize it in Wisconsin. And the people that are investing and taking that risk of putting their crypto into a blockchain as a security should be able to earn the same rewards as other people in other states. With that, I'll turn it over to the Senator.
Well, I'm so very grateful that you are well spoken on this particular topic. So just to simplify a little bit here, Assembly Bill 892 creates a clear and common sense definition of things such as digital assets. What are nodes? What is staking in general? And we want that within our statutes. It explicitly states that staking staking is as a service is not considered the sales of securities, as mentioned by our representative here. It ensures that people who provide the technical hardware and infrastructure for staking aren't misclassified as security brokers. It's important because it provides the rules of the road that businesses need to feel safe investing and creating high-tech jobs here in the state of Wisconsin. It allows Wisconsin citizens to participate in digital economy without needing to have some sort of computer expert or manage complex hardware themselves. Now, I would like to support that for somebody as simplistic as I in this role here, but hopefully this will open it up for other individuals within this up-and-coming I don't want to say market, but technology for investing purposes. It recognizes that staking is a technical function of a network, not a traditional investment contract. And it keeps our fraud protections in place while ensuring our regulators focus on actual fiscal and financial risk rather than stifling new technologies for out-of-date definitions. So just trying to get up to date with many other states that are doing this. We do have other folks that will be testifying here today that are much wiser than me, but not our representative on this particular subject here today. So thank you for your time in hearing this. We need to catch up with our other states.
Thank you for both of you for your testimony. I just want to kind of recap a few things I heard. Representative, did you say there are 46 other states that are doing that, which means sounds like there's only 4 that aren't, and Wisconsin is one of them.
Correct.
Can you tell me what the other 3 may be?
I do know that Coinbase will be testifying, and they have that information. I don't believe I have it. But yeah, there are only, I think there's 4, and I think
Maybe
one of them have actually recently. Yeah, does Ledge Council, do you have that information?
Oh, the 4 states.
Yeah. Well, I would say I'm pretty sure if, obviously we'll be corrected here shortly if it's wrong, but I believe most of our neighboring states have done this already too.
That's true.
We're an island yet again on this.
We absolutely are, and we're seeing literally people moving because of it.
And I think you said $4 million? I think I might have heard about how much in taxable revenue.
That's at least $4 million. That number is from Coinbase alone, and when you add Robinhood and when you add all the other different technology platforms and all the different types of entrepreneurs or businesses that would participate in staking or are doing staking without offering rewards, that number would be higher. So it's at least $4 million.
Fantastic. Questions from committee? Representative Madison.
Absolutely. So who all did you work with on this legislation? Have you talked to DFI about their position on this?
We've worked with a lot of different stakeholders. We have not worked with DFI. DFI is currently in a lawsuit with Coinbase over their interpretation that it is a security rather than a service.
Got you. So in that same lawsuit, right, you have, you said that there are 4 states that aren't, we're one of 4 states that don't actually allow for staking the way that Coinbase would like to see in other stakeholders. Even as you look at the lawsuit, there are 9 states that are a part of that lawsuit, including the ones that you are uplifting that are have passed laws to do this. So that includes.
There were, but they 5 of them have dropped their lawsuit.
Do you want to tell me those 5?
Coinbase will be testifying later, and they're the ones being in the lawsuit, so they'll have that information for you.
Got you.
Representative Spiros.
So the $4 million in taxable revenue. So explain that, that piece of it so I understand it.
Yeah, absolutely. So if like, for example, like Ethereum might be one that people are familiar with in terms of like a type of crypto. If I was to invest in Ethereum and keep it in Coinbase or Robinhood and help them build their blockchain and their systems, they would pay me an income. It's kind of like it's a reward for like the risk you're taking of storing your crypto in their platform. So it's literal income that they would pay you, and
Similar to a bank with interest?
similar to like a bank with interest, but at a much higher level. There's not a set amount, and so it varies based on the amount of people in it, the type of blockchain. There's like a lot of technical things that go into what that return would be. But just from simply like investing your crypto into a system that's building a blockchain, they will pay you a reward for keeping it in there. So it's an income you'd be earning as a reward for storing your crypto in their platform.
And then that's taxable then?
Yeah, that's taxable income.
So out of the $4 million, it's part of it is what somebody's missing out on, and the other piece of it is what the state's missing out on?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Representative Madison again.
Got you. I know in the press conference this morning you uplifted, that our laws are behind, and DFI's interpretation of the risks here are behind the curve. Were there anything in their concerns that are addressed through your legislation? And then more broadly, right, we're talking about folks' investments, right? What protections exist currently under state law?
Yeah, that's a good question. So for one, it's the definitions that would provide clarity that we're trying to do around like what is staking, what is a node. So that could, yes, help with DFI in terms of providing clarity in legislation around this to help with interpretations. But also, I just point out that all these companies are licensed and regulated federally, so there's a lot of protections and disclosure and a lot of things around that federal license and that federal regulation. So they are all regulated. It's very transparent, and so at this stage, I think there are like those type of protections currently happen at the federal level. In terms of there's other legislation out there in terms of like crypto kiosks and things, and we're not saying that there's nothing that needs to be done around this space, but I think a good step in this whole conversation is saying what's allowed and what's not allowed, and we should allow for staking so we're able to, protect the environment. It's 99.9% less energy than digital mining, and also being able to earn those rewards that we're missing out on income over $4 million directly to people in Wisconsin, and the state losing that tax revenue as well.
Got you.
Any other questions from committee?
I got one last one. I'm so sorry.
One more.
No, please. We like
One more. We got
my
you.
boy DeSmith's not here.
I got you. I'll let you do that.
So you talked about 99.9% reduction in energy consumption. Do you have any reference of where that number comes from that I could look into?
Yeah, I'd be happy to share that with you. There's quite a few studies around this space, but just think about it in terms of like it's just a different path. Instead of like the computing power, instead of needing to use a bunch of energy to do digital mining in terms of having computers solve complex equations, which uses a ton of power, this takes that whole thing out of the equation. I would say 100%, but the studies I have read are 99.99. So I use that as a reference. But it's just a change. It's like a change in how the crypto is being stored. Instead of being used like digital mining to protect the asset, it's or the blockchain. You're using the crypto as collateral into the blockchain, so you don't need to have computers solving complex problems as a security because your collateral is invested in that to protect the blockchain.
Gotcha.
So it's just a change from instead of computing power, you're using collateral of crypto.
Gotcha.
It's just not energy. It's not an energy user.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you again.
All right.
Now we are just going to change up. I know there was a little bit of an org change up. We are just going to have Lorenzo Cruz with the Wisconsin Bankers Association step up, and he is speaking against. You want to just, well, you want to turn it on. There.
All right. Thank you. Well, I appreciate the chair's willingness to accommodate me here. I've got to head up to our bankers exec conference. We got about 500 bankers in Wisconsin Dells that Tyler and I have to go meet with. So, good morning, Chair Nate Gustafson and members of the Assembly Committee on Science and Technology and AI. My name is Lorenzo Cruz. I'm Vice President of Government Relations of the Wisconsin Bankers Association. On behalf of WBA, thank you for the opportunity to testify regarding AB 892. The Wisconsin Bankers Association is the state's largest financial trade association and represents banks of all sizes located throughout Wisconsin. Our members serve individuals, families, farmers, small businesses, and communities across the state. And we have a strong interest in policies that promote consumer protection, financial stability, and a level regulatory playing field. AB 892 would exclude digital asset staking and staking as a service from coverage under the state's securities law. While the goal of encouraging technological innovation is understandable, the bill raises concerns regarding consumer protection and regulatory consistency. Staking activities can involve monetary transactions, third-party service providers, and expectations of return. Similar characteristics in traditional financial markets are subject to regulation to ensure transparency, manage risk, and protect consumers. Treating digital asset activities differently, based solely on their technological form, may create gaps in oversight and result in an uneven regulatory framework. The Department of Financial Institutions currently has the authority to evaluate financial products and services used on their specific facts and circumstances. Creating a statutory exemption would limit that flexibility and may reduce the state's ability to respond effectively to emerging risks as digital asset markets continue to evolve. Maintaining appropriate regulatory oversight benefits both consumers and responsible participants in the digital asset industry by promoting clarity, trust, and market integrity. For these reasons, the Wisconsin Bankers Association respectfully asks the committee to carefully consider the implications of this bill and to oppose AB 892. Thank you for your time and consideration. I'll take questions.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Yep. Now, I want to point something out that I think I might have heard from the author, and then I hear a confliction, obviously, within your testimony as well.
Yep.
Your testimony is stating that the state's security laws would prevent something like this based off of DFI and having the enforcement, but I think I've heard that the SEC has essentially greenlit this from a federal perspective. So are you kind of pointing to the fact that there's not parity between obviously the direction both of the state law and what the SEC has proposed?
So, Chair, you're going to test my knowledge of the federal law. That's not necessarily my purview. I'm going to defer to my boss, the CEO, Chairman Rose Oswald Pohl, but I'm essentially referring to the state securities law. I can do a check on where the SEC stands for you. I'm not ready to comment on it.
Yeah, no worries. I just want to make sure that's one conflicting point that I really saw here in that.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page, at least.
Yeah. What I can add is I know there's quite a bit of discussion as it relates to stablecoin and digital assets at the federal level. There's the Genius Act that was passed, and now there's the Clarity Act, kind of a follow-up bill. So what I can say is there's a tremendous amount of activity kind of talking about what that regulatory framework should look like going forward.
Perfect. Representative Dessler?
Yeah, can you tell me what kind of oversight necessarily would DFI lose if we pass this bill?
Well,
I'm wondering, like, what might they miss if we pass this bill that they wouldn't miss?
so again, I'm going to defer to DFI, but at least my understanding is that today, for us, I mean, if we want to, get involved in this, traditionally in financial service market, this would be treated as a security. So I guess I would say for those folks that think that it's a problem, I guess from our perspective, I think what you have to do is just go to the department and register as a security, right? So I don't know if I'm answering your question because I'm a little bit hesitant to answer.
Okay, can I ask a follow-up?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and kind of, I guess, in that same line of thought, is there any other security that if we pass this is going to come next and say, hey, if you pass staking, I think we do what we do without the oversight that we currently have?
I think that's a possibility. I mean, like I said, I'm not well versed on what digital assets would include. I mean, you're providing an exemption, so I'm sure there'll be someone who'll come knocking on your door to broaden that.
Okay, thanks. Just a reminder.
We do have our mics again, so just want to give you a heads up on that. I know, it's a little foreign yet. Representative Madison.
I know that many of our consumer and investor protections exist because of past wrongs or mistakes. So over time, we've built a robust protections. Meanwhile, we are hearing arguments today about why protections are not needed. Can you talk about why investors and consumer protections are so important and how they've developed over time to correct past mistakes? And then can you also address any concerns up front that may be, even more concerns in that realm as it relates to the passage of this bill?
The previous speakers was talking about crypto, and tomorrow there's going to be hearings on crypto kiosk operators. Not necessarily directly related, but it's a digital currency. So I think cryptocurrency in general, or digital assets, is kind of the new frontier. We're all kind of trying to figure what that means, but I think there's what I can safely say around crypto is I think it's fair to say there's been quite a bit of fraud related to that. And obviously we're trying to put some safeguards in to address it as it relates to kiosk operators. Again, I'm not the expert when it comes to crypto. I'm just kind of doing my a little bit of research, but I think there have been crypto companies out there, lending companies, that may do staking that have failed. And I think there's a worry about, companies getting over leveraged. Fraud could be a problem. So I don't want to disparage the crypto companies. I think I'm not saying they're all bad actors by any means, but I think it warrants to have some sort of safeguards in place. Again, tomorrow I'll be testifying in, a bill to, put those protections in place. But right now, I guess from our perspective, those of us that operate in the financial markets, we kind of look at staking as something that looks very similar to what's going on the security side. We think they should continue to be regulated at the DFI.
Other questions from committee? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Next up, we will have Robin Cook, and Robin is representing Coinbase, speaking in favor. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Robin Cook, and I am the Director of U.S. Policy and Head Legislative Counsel at Coinbase, which is America's largest crypto platform and a publicly traded company. My testimony is in front of you, and I'm going to get through that. I also want to, once we do that, address a couple of the questions that have come up in terms of some of the other states that are involved. But just as a roadmap, I'll do that last. At Coinbase, we don't just accept regulation, we advocate for it. And we hold 46 state money transmission licenses, including one from the Department of Financial Institutions right here in Wisconsin. We're regulated by the CFTC and the SEC through our various subsidiaries and by dozens and dozens of regulators around the world. We believe the crypto economy needs clear rules of the road to foster innovation. And my remarks today will focus on two key areas. First, the importance of staking and candidly what it is that we're actually talking about. And second, the importance of Assembly Bill 892. So stepping back a second, blockchain technology and why we're here. It enables faster, cheaper, and more inclusive financial services. And it is in many respects the internet of money. It's programmable, it's transparent, and it's resilient with no single point of control. More than 52 million Americans, that's 1 in 5, use crypto today, including roughly 16% of people right here in Wisconsin. It's not a fringe technology, and it's already here and being integrated into the financial system through things like real-time payments, small business finance, and secure digital infrastructure. And I think for Wisconsin, the state should be looking for ways to participate in this innovation and not put itself at a disadvantage. The way that the technology works, stepping back a second, imagine a shared public ledger, like a town's record book, that tracks every single transaction maybe in a town. But instead of being stored in one central building, that ledger is held by thousands and thousands of independent actors all over the world that simultaneously have an exact copy of that ledger in all times. That's the basic idea of a blockchain. And once information is added, updated copies are distributed all across that network simultaneously in real time, meaning that once something is posted to the blockchain, it's immutable, it's highly secure, can't be changed. Think about it another way. Your account fundamentally at a bank or a credit union is an entry on their individual ledger that says that you have this much money at that financial institution that is yours. Imagine, though, what could happen if everybody was operating off of the same ledger. If your account at Citi could talk to your account at your credit union, and there was the ability to then always have everybody working off of the same information at the same time. What that means is that transactions can settle faster, reconciliation becomes simpler, and verification doesn't depend on a single point of failure like what happens if a computer system goes down at a bank or a credit union. Money becomes programmable through software that can be built on top of that ledger. Those are called smart contracts and have really profound implications in terms of efficiency and getting better financial services into the hands of real people. This has implication well beyond financial services. Governments and businesses are already exploring blockchains for record keeping and verification, including things like driver's licenses, car titles, and other secure registries to solve really practical problems in the world. Now, remember the thousands of copies of those ledgers. How do they get there? Well, blockchains are built to be decentralized, which makes them more durable. But it also means that everyday people can participate in the process, participate directly in helping to secure and maintain the network. And the power then goes to the users, not individual companies. And that's where staking and this bill really comes into play. So some blockchains, and Representative Nalen touched on this earlier, are built on proof of stake networks, and they stay secure because individual users will pledge their tokens and lock up their assets to help verify transactions and enforce the rules of the network. And as long as they follow the rules, the network itself rewards them in additional new tokens. They always retain ownership and control over their assets, and the rewards are paid directly to the people that are actually using the protocol, not by a company. So in other words, staking is the infrastructure that makes it go. It's what makes it keep it safe, and it's how they stay secure. It's also good public policy from an environmental perspective. It is the industry's answer to the concerns, as Representative Nalen mentioned a moment ago, 99% less energy usage than other types of validation that might be available. So staking helps build the internet of the future, but it often requires time and know-how to be able to set it up. And so companies that provide staking as a service are providing that software to be able to enable people to participate in this in a way that's simple and convenient for them. It is, again, infrastructure that enables the users to participate directly in the economy. So that's what makes Assembly Bill 892 very narrow and responsible. It confirms that staking as a service is not a security. It aligns Wisconsin with 46 other states that are already doing this. It will ensure greater competition and a more robust marketplace for service providers, ensuring that there are rules of the road and that staking can be handled in a trusted provider of their choice. And it does this while preserving consumer ownership and transparency over their assets. What it does not do is deregulate crypto, eliminate fraud enforcement. You can still have fraud cases that are brought through any run-of-the-mill fraud statute. It just says that it's not a securities fraud case. And it doesn't weaken consumer protection or money laundering laws. This committee cares rightly about consumer harm. And I think a couple of key facts to get out there. In more than 6 years of Coinbase offering this service, no Coinbase customer has ever lost assets through our staking service. And across the global ecosystem, losses due to penalties are exceedingly rare. We have actually calculated that a person is 6 times more likely to be struck by lightning than to lose assets due to a staking penalty. And again, this has come up already this morning, but this SEC's Division of Corporate Finance earlier this year, last year, put out comprehensive guidance on staking, confirming that services like ours and like those that would be covered by this statute are not securities under federal law. And so this would align Wisconsin with what the SEC has already said. So, Mr. Chairman, there's no consumer harm that's at stake here. There is consumer harm when access is denied. Wisconsinites have missed out on more than $4 million just through Coinbase by having these services unavailable here. That's money that was not given to the pockets of actual voters and consumers all over this state. This isn't consumer protection, it's consumer exclusion. And so Assembly Bill 892 ensures that Wisconsinites are not left behind. Just to quickly address the other states and that question that came up earlier. So there was a lawsuit that was brought by the SEC that was dismissed against Coinbase. There were similar lawsuits that were brought by a number of other crypto companies. There were 10 states that brought follow-on cases related to staking. So those initial states were California, Washington, Wisconsin, Illinois, New Jersey, Maryland, Kentucky, Alabama, South Carolina, and Vermont. Illinois, Alabama, Kentucky, South Carolina, and Vermont have all dropped their cases. Washington still has its case pending, but has allowed staking to continue in the state while the case is pending. The states that are remaining where it's illegal are California, Maryland, New Jersey, and then Wisconsin, obviously, as well. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you all have.
Thank you for your testimony. When you were listing off the states, it sounded like a really bad walked into a bar joke started. So, to address, I just want to restate the question, though, about what I asked the WBA was the fact that, you know, SEC has certain standards and then our state security laws. Would you say that the SEC's stance now is in contrary to our state security laws, or are they still relatively in harmony, at least, in the sense of what could be done if we were to pass something like this?
So what the SEC did was not preemptive. So Wisconsin still has the ability to say, if it wants to, that staking is illegal under Wisconsin law. But it's absolutely the case that Wisconsin is out of step where the federal regulator is, and then in addition, obviously, 46 other states where it's allowed as well.
Representative Madison?
Absolutely.
Mike?
Has Coinbase ever applied for securities registration in the state of Wisconsin?
So in the state of Wisconsin, I don't believe so, and the reason for that is that we don't offer securities. We do have, as I mentioned, a money transmission license, but we don't offer securities, so there would be no need to register.
Got you. Come back to me. Yeah.
So, I guess my understanding of mining, like the purpose originally of mining was security, as in make something real complicated so it can't be stolen easily.
Right.
And it sounds to me like staking is relying on security in a different method than mining is, in that it's more of the software and the programs that are providing the security. I guess was hoping you could speak a little bit to how you keep your security ahead of, an artificial intelligence engine that might be focused on trying to break through that security. And if your security was breached, wouldn't that be a much larger amount of money that would be stolen, perhaps, than a situation like, mining?
Yeah, so you're touching on, I think, a really good point here, and I'd answer that question in a couple of ways. So I think first and foremost, when a protocol begins, it is not etched in stone over time that this is the only way that it can continue forever and ever until the end of time. The users of the protocol do have the ability, and I said in a meeting earlier this morning that we don't make it easy on ourselves in the way that we describe this sometimes, because we're a bunch of engineers that have kind of gotten together and talk engineers with each other. But you can have a governance vote of the users that will enable the protocol to change the way that it does things over time. And that's actually when Ethereum started as a proof of work protocol, which is the idea like Bitcoin, where you're solving a very complicated math problem, and that's how it keeps the network secured, to a proof of stake protocol. And that was a vote that took place of the millions and millions and millions, if not billions of people who were token holders throughout the world, because of the fact that this is a decentralized protocol. There's no one person that can control the outcome of that vote, because again, there's all these people that are working together to secure the network. And so when there are situations where they need to upgrade the way that the protocol works, the technology behind it, there is a mechanism to do that. With Bitcoin mining, we actually just announced last week that we're developing a task force related to quantum computing. There have been concerns that have been raised about, as technology continues to evolve and computers get smarter and smarter and better, how do you make sure that the protocol itself is keeping pace with that? And so we're looking at that. Others in the industry are going to be looking at that, and it'll continue to evolve over time, and that's by design.
And then could you speak to just kind of that last, so I guess I'm also kind of curious about kind of that, Armageddon moment where, if something did get breached, I mean, is it truly, emptying out, millions of people's staking, funds that are there? Or is there like additional protocols? Are things like categorized or subdivided so that even a quantum, computing AI device could necessarily break through and take from everybody simultaneously?
So this is again the design of the blockchain itself. So you have the record that is in place across the world. Once transactions are posted to the blockchain and confirmed to be valid, they're simultaneously communicated to lots and lots and lots of different places all over the world. So I don't think that there is a possibility that kind of Armageddon moment would ever happen.
Right.
But if it did, you can then look back up on the blockchain to the moment before there was some sort of a breach, and you know that those that those transactions are valid.
Understood. Thanks.
You brought up a great topic that if we had more time this session, we'd definitely be doing an info hearing on, which is quantum computing and how that will completely upend cryptography as we know it. My background's cybersecurity, so that's been something that even since I've gotten involved, it's exciting and frightening all at the same time. So, Representative Madison.
Yeah, I'm looking at a statement here from DFI, and I'm going back to what I previously asked, and they uplifted in their opposition that there's no reason why digital asset companies wouldn't be able to comply with DFI's rules, despite that, right? Which goes to what you were saying and what your current, like how you guys currently proceed, which makes it a choice on your part or on your company's part to not participate in DFI's, DFI's process, which leaves that $400 million on the table, or not on the table for folks. Can you speak a little bit more to protections that you can't meet, right, under both federal law and state law, and what could be done to address those issues?
Well, so I think that again, these are not securities, and they're not securities transactions. The service that we provide is not a service related to securities, so there is no need to register as and I think there's sort of an open question of a securities what exactly we would be registering for too. Is it a broker? Is it something else? I think there are sort of some really fundamental questions, but the SEC has confirmed that these aren't securities as a matter of federal law. The bills that have been moving through Congress related to registration for digital asset companies have confirmed that staking is not a security under federal law. If those bills pass, they would be preemptive vis-a-vis this particular issue. So I think the broader point here is less about compliance than a question of the registration itself. We have 46 states that say that this isn't a securities transaction, that you don't need to register. We have the SEC saying that this isn't a securities transaction and you don't need to register. We still have the ability for state regulators to have enforcement cases for fraud and other things. The AG's office would continue to be able to bring run-of-the-mill fraud cases. We still have a registration for Coinbase as a whole at DFI. So I think it's less about those issues than the overall framework as a whole.
Any other questions from committee? Thank you very much again for your testimony. I'm going to ask if they're both willing to come testify together, because I think they're both a part of the Wisconsin Blockchain Business Council. Tiara and Maggie, are you guys good testifying together? That'd be awesome. Ready when you are.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Maggie Schmidt. I'm a musician, a community organizer, and a co-founder of a creative agency based in Milwaukee. I grew up in Mukwonago, a small rural Wisconsin town, and I've built my career here because I believe in this state and the people who make it what it is. In addition to my creative work, I also serve as president of the Wisconsin Blockchain Business Council, where I focus on education and advocacy for responsible innovation in our state. Like many creatives and entrepreneurs, I don't earn a paycheck every 2 weeks. I rely on a patchwork of income, project-based, seasonal, and often unpredictable. That includes agency work, music-related income like streaming, direct sales, ticket revenue, licensing royalties, and modest investment returns. This is not unusual in the creative economy, but it is often misunderstood. I want to speak today about digital asset staking and why blocking it in Wisconsin would have real unintended consequences for people like me. Staking is often framed as a speculative financial product. From my lived experience, that framing misses the point. For creative entrepreneurs, staking functions as a predictable income infrastructure. It's not income I chase, it's income that quietly stabilizes everything else. Being a musician or creative founder today means wearing every hat imaginable without a massive label advance, which often comes with long-term loss of ownership and control. We are our own accountants, marketers, creative directors, tour and production managers, designers, editors, and more. Heavy is the head that wears all of those hats. Staking provides a financial backbone that doesn't require constant attention. It allows a portion of my capital to earn predictably while I'm creating, producing, touring, and selling my work. That predictability means I can reinvest in my career without draining my savings or relying on loans that were never designed for people like me. And that's the key issue. Traditional finance was built for W-2 employment. Taxes are withheld automatically, income is steady, risk is legible on paper. Creative work does not fit neatly into that model. And I've felt that gap personally. I've faced challenges renting a home, refinancing student loans, and navigating credit and mortgage applications, not because I lack income or discipline, but because my income doesn't arrive on a predictable schedule. For decades, creatives were told that instability was the price of pursuing our vocation. The starving artist wasn't treated as a problem, it was treated as an inevitability. But that's a sign of a broken system, especially when artists are the backbone of culture and local economies. Predictability used to be considered incompatible with creative work. That doesn't have to be true anymore. Staking allows creatives to behave more like responsible businesses, managing cash flow, reserves, and runway, not less. This matters not just for individuals, but for Wisconsin as a whole. Our state is already facing a brain drain of creatives, founders, technologists, and remote-first workers. Rising costs, limited access to capital, and underdeveloped creative infrastructure all contribute to that trend. If staking is allowed in neighboring states, but unclear or blocked here, platforms will continue to geo-block Wisconsin residents. For creatives, that's the equivalent of a statewide blackout cutting off a tool that supports long-term sustainability. States like Michigan, Illinois, and Minnesota are moving toward clarity. Wisconsin risks unintentionally telling innovators and creatives that they don't belong here, despite being home to the world's largest music festival, Summerfest, and Mile of Music in Appleton, and one of the most vibrant local music ecosystems in the country. Blocking staking does not protect consumers, it exports talent and capital. It's also important to recognize that entrepreneurs are not the same as corporations, and policy often forgets the people in the middle. It's too often legislation imagines two buckets, large tech companies and individual retail consumers, but creatives and small founders live in the space between. A single musician supports dozens of other workers, producers, videographers, designers, venues, promoters, sound engineers, and local radio stations. When creative income becomes unstable, the impact ripples outward. Events don't happen, contractors don't get hired, venues lose bookings, communities lose culture. Staking is not abstract, it has multipliers. When staking is blocked outright, participation doesn't disappear, it becomes less transparent. Large institutions can afford legal teams and workarounds. Small operators, women founders, creatives, and first-time entrepreneurs cannot. Clarity brings activity into the light. Bans push it into the shadows. I want to close by grounding this in Wisconsin values. The state prides itself on work ethic, craft, community, and innovation. Our farmers have modeled self-reliance for generations. Our aerospace and manufacturing sectors think long-term. Even our Green Bay Packers reflect a belief in shared ownership and stewardship over short-term extraction. Staking aligns with these values. It's not about extracting more, it's about tending what we've already built. The future I want to build here is one where creatives across Wisconsin can sustainably share their skills, grow equity in their work, and reinvest in their communities, where innovative technology lifts the people already doing the work rather than forcing them to leave to survive. And to make this very human, when I release a creative project, income comes in waves. Staking allows me to responsibly steward that income between releases instead of scrambling or leaving the state in search of opportunity elsewhere. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Hello, good morning. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you to the committee for allowing me to testify today. My name is Tiara Nicole Williams. I'm publicly known as Toninelet. Toninelet is my artist name. I am a multidisciplinary artist, and so I started off from a traditional art background, and in a unique way, I've come to use digital tools into this space and with my artwork, and I do use blockchain. Born and raised Milwaukee, Wisconsin, so I'm definitely a true Wisconsinite, and I love our state. And of course, I'm also a founding member of the Wisconsin Blockchain Business Council, right alongside Maggie here. I'm also the Wisconsin chapter lead of SheFi. Now, SheFi is a global organization focused on educating women and empowering women to participate in blockchain and emerging technologies. And so I'm here today to speak about the support of the Assembly Bill 892 and to explain why protecting, clarifying cryptocurrency staking services matters to the everyday Wisconsinites, including artists, educators, and small business owners. Now, in my work as an artist, I use blockchain technology as a tool for ownership, transparency, and sustainability. Blockchain allows me to document provenance, receive direct compensation for my work, and engage directly with digital platforms that allow without traditional intermediaries. Participation in these ecosystems often includes holding digital assets and, in some cases, engaging in staking, not as speculation, but as participation in the infrastructure that keeps these networks secure and operational. Staking is a core function of many blockchain networks. It supports network security and reliability for participants, and it can provide modest, predictable returns that help sustain long-term engagement. For independent artists and creators, this can be the difference between being able to continue to experiment with new tools or being priced out of innovation altogether. And so without clear regulatory guidance, individuals who participate in staking or use staking as a service platform face legal uncertainties, even when they are not acting as brokers, advisors, or issuing securities. So that uncertainty discourages the responsible participation and disproportionately impacts smaller actors who lack legal resources. AB892 provides necessary clarity by affirming that cryptocurrency staking and staking as a service, when properly structured, are not automatically treated as securities under state law. That clarity supports innovation while maintaining appropriate consumer protections. And as Wisconsin chapter lead for SheFi, I work directly with women who are learning about blockchain technology, financial tools for the very first time. And these clear rules allow for individuals to participate responsibly, build skills, and contribute to Wisconsin's growing digital economy without fear of unintentional noncompliance. As a founding member of the WBBC, I've firsthand seen how regulatory clarity helps business owners, developers, and community leaders build responsibly within our state. Wisconsin's state motto is forward. Supporting AB 892 reflects that value in choosing clarity over confusion, participation over exclusion, progress over hesitation. This legislation moves Wisconsin forward by recognizing how people are already building, creating, and contributing to the digital economy today. I thank you for the opportunity to testify, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much for coming to testify. Both of you are the exact example that I love to point out of, we've heard, obviously, I turned 31 this month. We always heard STEM, 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 STEM going through school, and then it started expanding to STEAM, adding the arts, and why it's so critical to the overall picture of where we're going forward with human creativity in kind of synergy with the actual technology at hand. So you guys appreciate everything you guys do. Can't wait to chat with you after the fact too and see what we can do to have another discussion. So from there, questions from committee. You gonna start calling me Unk? Questions, committee. No questions? Thank you very much again.
Thank you.
You know, I was playing a video game the other day and I was being roasted by 20-something-year-olds calling me Unk. I was like, you know what? Unacceptable.
Yeah, it'd be like that sometimes.
Next up, we have Spencer Smith with Amplify, speaking in favor.
Good morning. I'm Spencer X. Smith. Hey, how are you? This is my second time having the pleasure of speaking before your committee. The first time was with the Wisconsin Technology Council, of which I've been a board member since 2017. We were talking all about AI and data centers and that kind of stuff. This is a much different one. So maybe if we can just break down this very simply as to what staking as a service is and why it's important for Wisconsinites. If I am a holder of crypto in any capacity, whether it's on an exchange like Coinbase or others, or if I own it individually, is that illegal? It's not illegal. May I stake it on my own individually and earn rewards for it legally? Yes. Can I stake it through a service right now in Wisconsin? No. I could, and then that was taken away from me. So what do I need to do to take advantage as an individual to earn these staking rewards? And staking rewards are just you securing the blockchain by way of assets that you already own. If I want to do this, I need to go to Coinbase or the exchange, pull the dollars off of that exchange to my own wallet that I self-custody. It's analogous to getting a bag of cash from the bank and going, okay, I'll be sure to take care of this thing. Set up my own computer at home, put those assets on that computer node, keep the software up to date, and run it, and then I get rewards for validating. Alternatively, I could have an intermediary like Coinbase do this for me, collect a de minimis award for doing that on my behalf, like 0.5% of the total 3% that you might get for earning those rewards, and they do it on my behalf, which means I don't have to worry about doing all of the cost basis analysis myself, getting my taxes right. I and the state receive a consolidated tax report, so I know exactly what I do, exactly what I owe, and the state can reconcile it. Going a step further, this $4 million is understated. Whenever staking as a service is paying you an income, it's analogous to getting a dividend reinvestment plan. If you own a stock that has a dividend, in lieu of getting cash, you get more of that investment. So we've talked about Ethereum quite a few times already. If you own Ethereum and you're staking it, you get more Ethereum. So you owe income on that because you're realizing more of a benefit. When you ultimately sell that Ethereum for more than what you bought it for, which is why people mostly own investments, you also owe a capital gains tax as well. So there are two aspects of it. There's both the income aspect and there's also the capital gains aspect that we're missing out of right now in Wisconsin. So I'm happy to answer any of the technical questions and the mechanics of it because I'm really deep into this stuff. If you want to nerd out with me, we can keep it high level, but I'm happy to talk through it if you like.
Don't threaten me with a good time. Questions from committee? We'll have to nerd out another day.
Sounds good.
Thank you for
all.
testimony.
Cheers.
Lastly, we have Ian with Stand with Crypto as our last speaker.
Good morning.
Good morning. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair, and committee members for holding this hearing on this important issue, Assembly Bill 892. My name is Ian McCullough, also known as Cullough. As I'm the Stand with Crypto chapter president, so I represent over 28,000 Stand with Crypto advocates across this great state. And a lot of these are everyday Wisconsinites. They're small business owners, entrepreneurs, innovators, and they all believe in the potential of blockchain technology to change our social, our economic, and our financial systems towards a positive means. And I'm actually a fifth-generation Wisconsinite and second-generation technologist. And so I'm deeply committed to ensuring that all of these 28,000 members of our organization that live here in Wisconsin get the expanded opportunity, transparency, and economic freedom that we all hold very dearly in this state and in this country. There's a bunch of great folks here that will just touch on a few entrepreneurs that I think show a little bit of the breadth of what this technology can do, and then I can talk a little bit about why staking kind of plays a big role. So there are a few really standout kind of use cases for blockchain people aren't aware of as much, and that's for example, we have a great company in Wisconsin called Aeroplicity, and they have a very high standard Department of Defense compliant supply chain traceability for parts for aerospace vehicles and devices. And we're discussing with them, they had to build their own solution and are very, very concerned with using their solution because it relies on proof of stake blockchains in order to even fulfill this. So, and they talk about the incredible amount of compliance and complexities needed in order to satisfy the Department of Defense, and they use blockchain to do that. There's another great startup called Affirmity, and they use a combination of blockchain and bioauthentication software to verify the identities to combat deepfakes, AI deepfakes. So this is a way to combat a lot of the concerns that we are really fearful about knowing what is what and what is true. Blockchain can really help verify, and that's another great Wisconsin startup. Also, we have an amazing startup, Russell Fromm of Wi-Fi Wireless. His devices that provide wireless networks, it's a whole wireless infrastructure for the internet. It's all around this city, actually, and all around this nation. He's got devices in Dane County Airport and all the Dane County high schools. And I recently was amazed to hear that these devices have made their way all the way to SeaWorld. And these are brand new ways to aggregate and create a more robust digital infrastructure network for wireless and information through wireless means. And lastly, there's close to home in Wisconsin, there's this great startup called Vessi, which has received considerable investment from the federal level in the United States Department of Agriculture, and they have a solution for food safety and security for dairy supply chain. So they use a whole combination of blockchain and Internet of Things infrastructure for their supply chain to determine the quality of their products for their clients that make dairy and make dairy products, and they use this to trace where it came from, what were the states of the tanks during the process, and blockchain helps. They're big proponents of using blockchain technology for that. So when it comes to this bill, I think it's really a straightforward, common sense bill that brings some clarity to the idea of digital asset staking. I think just the definition of digital asset alone is for me a huge win to see people considering. But staking is one of the most accessible and innovative features of blockchain. It's actually the fundamental to a considerable amount of blockchain solutions that use proof of stake, as so we heard from a lot today. And so, I'd say this bill keeps it simple. It enables staking rewards accessibility while ensuring compliance. And I urge everybody in this committee and everyone at home to learn more and to support this bill. And thank you for your time, and welcome any questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Questions from committee? I think we're all just still letting it all set in.
Yeah.
The future is bright and exciting is hopefully the takeaway today, especially on this piece of legislation. So with that, thank you.
Thank you.
That was the last testimony for 892. We do have one registering in favor, and that is Representative Dan Knodel from the 24th Assembly District. With that, we will go on to the next bill, which is going to be AB 959, and we will have the authors come up if they're here. Brill and I believe Jacques. And we're losing Patrick. Don't tease me. I knew you'd be prompt.
I guess I know how to clear a room, right?
I knew you'd be prompt. We're just swapping out ledge council here, so just give us a moment.
Oh, hi. I know.
Mr.
I saw
Chairman,
him so much during task force, and I just don't get to see her as much.
If it's okay, if I could testify on both bills that I have up here together.
Absolutely. I was going to ask you that anyways.
Can he go first?
No, you go first.
Oh, okay.
Alrighty.
Would you like me to start?
The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman Gustafson and committee members on the Assembly Committee on Criminal Science, Technology, and AI for hearing AB 959. I'd also like to thank Senator Jacques for taking the lead on this bill in the Senate. This bill comes out of the Speaker's Task Force on Protecting Kids, where we heard concerning testimony regarding the effects of the development of AI on our children. We heard about the risks of deepfakes, the harms of AI-generated or manipulated explicit material, and the growing concern that children and teens may form unhealthy or even dangerous parasocial relationships with AI chatbots. According to one shocking stat we heard, and this has stuck with me hard since the hearing, and I've shared with many people, nearly 1/3 of teens find AI conversations as satisfying or more satisfying than human conversations. That's heartbreaking. We have a responsibility as lawmakers to act in defense of our children in this rapidly evolving technological environment. In order to do that effectively, it is important that our state law be absolutely clear, not just about what AI is, but what it is not. AB 959 is a precautionary, preemptive measure recommended by the Speaker's Task Force on Protecting Kids, which clarifies under state law that the term person does not include artificial intelligence defined as an engineered or machine-based system that varies in its level of autonomy and that can, for explicit or implicit objectives, infer from the input it receives how to generate outputs that can influence physical or virtual environments. Under the bill, AI is not a person for any purposes under state law and may not do any of the following: be granted the status of a person or any form of legal personhood and may not be considered to possess consciousness, self-awareness, sentience, or any similar traits of living beings, be a spouse or domestic partner, and may not hold any legal status akin to marriage or union with a human or other AI, be designated, be appointed, or serve as an officer, director, partner, manager, member, or any similar role of an entity, own, control, or hold title of any form of property, be considered a person against which liability may be imposed. As AI systems become increasingly sophisticated, we must take proactive measures to affirm that sophistication is not sentience. That while AI may simulate human reason, it is not and should not be regarded as human. AB 959 guards against speculative future claims of AI rights or personhood. Across the world, there are early efforts, both academic and legislative, to treat advanced AI systems as entities with autonomy or moral standing. These efforts are in their infancy, but they are happening. Wisconsin citizens deserve clarity that in this state, legal personhood is reserved for people, living sentient beings, not for machines, no matter how intelligent they appear. Further, this bill ensures legal accountability. The human beings and organizations who design, deploy, and operate AI systems ought to be responsible for their use, including any detrimental effects, especially to children. If an AI system causes injury or damage, liability often to the owner, developer, or operator, not the algorithm itself. So a good example of this would be that we've seen in bills in other states are a self-driving vehicle. If AI causes the crash, this would say that AI can't be charged, it has to be the programmer. So it specifically lines that out. Importantly, this legislation does not hinder innovation. It does not regulate code, algorithms, or research. Instead, it establishes the boundaries of accountability and definition within which innovation can safely occur. Finally, AB 959 reflects a broader principle. Technology must serve humanity, not replace it. As policymakers, it is our responsibility to anticipate the ethical and legal implications of emerging systems before they overtake the frameworks meant to govern them. AI is simply one such system which is emerging faster than most. And I'll just say some of the states I talked to, I called the state we kind of saw this in, that we framed it afterwards, is Ohio. I talked with their office today. There is a movement of this across states. Missouri being the most, Oklahoma being the most recent that introduced it just on January 23rd. So we are seeing the movement in this direction. So thank you again, Chairman Gustafson and the rest of the committee, for allowing us to have a hearing on this bill. While it may seem that this is something in the future, this is something preemptive we feel is important that Wisconsin should have in place, seeing how quickly this environment is changing. So with that, I'll turn it over to the Senator. Go ahead.
Thank you, Representative Brill. Thank you very much, Chairman Gustafson. Committee members, appreciate very much the opportunity to have this hearing and to be the Senate lead on this bill, as well as the other bill before you today that I'm the Senate lead on. I won't read all of my testimony, but do want to make a few points. It is clear that AI does play an important and integrated role in American life, but it's also clear that we need to set clear limits, clear and unambiguous limits. And as Representative Brill already testified, we need to make it clear that AI cannot be granted personhood status. AI can simulate conversation, emotion, and decision-making with remarkable sophistication. We've seen, unfortunately, in some cases, how they can persuade very convincingly and be almost undistinguishable from interacting with another human person. However, that's not the same as consciousness. And we need to make it clear that AI is not a person and may not be granted the legal status or rights that belong to human beings. Responsibility remains with the people and institutions that design, deploy, and benefit from these systems. As Representative Brill referenced, this legislation would make it clear that AI may not enter into a marriage with another human person. As with the other legislation before you, the chatbot bill, we've seen, unfortunately, that some AI is designed to stimulate romantic relationships, including even with children. This legislation also makes it clear that AI may not serve as a corporate officer or director. Corporate duties require legal accountability, discretion, and again, the ability to be held responsible for decisions affecting employees, shareholders, consumers, and the public. And finally, that AI would not be able to own property. Again, because AI is not a person and cannot bear legal obligations or be held accountable, it should not be permitted to hold property in its own right. This bill appropriately ensures that any property or assets connected to AI systems remain under the ownership and responsibility of human beings or legally recognized entities. If I could move now to Assembly Bill 965. I already have spoken to it a little bit. I don't know if Representative Franklin is going to be here to.
He's on his way. We'll take these.
Okay. My written testimony references, unfortunately, a couple situations where youths tragically lost their lives as a result of suicide because of these almost coercive conversations with chatbots, where you have programming that is meant to be affirming, and unfortunately there's no distinction that has been drawn in some cases between affirming things that clearly are harmful for anybody, whether a child or not. But it's important that we have in place safeguards to discourage destructive behaviors, or at the very least not encourage them. And companion chatbots, unlike traditional software, are built to encourage that continuous, ongoing conversation. If you've seen some of the transcripts, which I have, The way that there is, again, kind of like with scrolling or with anything else, this constant push from technology to form these relationships and to influence the minds of people who are socially and emotionally very vulnerable. Just something that, again, I'll leave the rest of the testimony to Representative Franklin here, but again, just think that it's very important that we are not encouraging self-harm, suicide, that we are basically providing referral to mental health services, not encouraging harm to others or illegal activity, or again, sexually explicit conduct. One thing I did want to point out, there's a poll March of last year from Americans for Responsible Innovation that showed that nearly 4 out of 5 respondents were concerned about the impact of AI on younger generations, and more than 80% agreed that minors should be prohibited from accessing AI chatbots designed to form romantic or erotic relationships. And with that, I will another committee to testify. Very much appreciate the flexibility, Mr. Chair.
Absolutely. And just Representative Franklin, just to kind of catch you up, just so we're not all muddying the water, we've essentially said 959 and 965. We're just letting you guys all testify. And then from a committee perspective, I'll let any questions on either bill fly as we finish up here. So,
great.
So personhood and
okay, sounds great. Chairman Gustafson, chair members, committee members, excuse me, thanks for giving me the chance to testify on Assembly Bill 965. I apologize. I was in another committee doing exec. So basically, 965 addresses a rapidly emerging issue, not just here in Wisconsin, but throughout the United States and on a global scale. So what we have an opportunity to do here in Wisconsin is to address it for our youth here in the state of Wisconsin. The emerging issue is around artificial intelligence systems that are designed to simulate human-like relationships with children. They are known as companion chatbots, and they are built to retain personal information and foster ongoing emotional engagement. And when these tools are used by children without safeguards, they can pose a real risk and foreseeable risks. This bill does not ban AI technology. Instead, it establishes clear and reasonable guardrails to ensure that if companion chatbots are made available to children, they are not capable of encouraging self-harm, suicide, violence, substance abuse, or illegal activity, and offering or substituting for mental health treatments, exposing children to sexually explicit content, or prioritizing engagement over child safety. AB 965 is narrowly tailored. It explicitly excludes customer service tools, internal business systems, research tools, and productivity software, ensuring that everyday and beneficial uses of AI are not affected. The bill also includes a reasonable transition period. Until January 1st, 2027, the requirements apply only when an operator has actual knowledge that the user is a child, giving companies time to adapt while still prioritizing our children's safety. After the new year, the requirements will then apply when an operator has reasonable determination that the user is a child. Reasonably determined is a concept often used in legal decision-making and would allow the courts the flexibility to determine if an operator could have prevented a bad outcome. As artificial intelligence becomes more integrated into daily life, especially for our young people, we have a responsibility to ensure that innovation and child safety move forward together. AB 965 helps to strike that balance, and I respectfully ask for your support, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you both for your testimony, and I, again, appreciate on the fly a little bit of the merging. So I'll also ask committee, obviously, ask the author of which bill you may be speaking on directly the question rather than trying to get them both to answer because you're not the authors of both bills. One question I had was a little bit of the concern that these bills are essentially saying, I understand, let's say AI is a tool. We know this for a fact. It's not kind of back to it's not a person, it's a tool. So with the personhood one, I just want to make sure it's kind of specified here, or I guess it kind of can bleed into chatbots in general, but don't feel the need to answer this. Is there any sort of provisions that have been talked about, especially from like a licensing perspective, of a person or an AI tool being considered a licensed professional of some entity that would need to be covered? So like an example would be, let's say as a AI model, it is designed to discuss healthcare concerns with a potential patient.
Sure.
Has there been any consideration of potential language that would also specify that a chatbot can't claim to be like a physician or a registered nurse or something along the lines of that, to ensure that that also adds just one more thing to the list that you already, a pretty extensive list as it is, but I think spelling out licensure would be a pretty critical one to maybe consider, for the fact that obviously if someone is reasonably speaking to an AI model through maybe a chat bot, that they're not interpreting it as a person that they're actually having a conversation with, and that chat bot making recommendations.
Yeah, based on like a health concern or
Correct. Saying, I have a nasty rash and it's gotten worse over 3 days, and and then essentially gives medical advice, which would be a concern.
So, I mean, just off the bat, I know the doctors always say, like, don't Google anything. So I think that's been an issue since before AI. But, Abby, I don't know if you know, I'll ask Ledge Council, we looked at, like, Ohio's bill had a lot more language kind of on that entity side. Does ours address kind of the, like, if it's acting as a professional?
It doesn't directly address that.
Okay.
It might be that, depending on the licensure, it's already kind of qualified because you have to have a license to do that profession. Doing it without a license, whether you are a human being or an AI, might be covered. But certainly in the vein of, as we're kind of looking at things to clarify that we don't want AI to do things, you could include it, but I would venture to guess that maybe it's already kind of covered through our licensing process as it currently exists.
Okay. Just a point of clarification on that before obviously we move forward with that bill. I just want to make sure that's kind of airtight, because I had someone brought those concerns to me, and I said, well, I'll ask. We'll figure out where that's at. So,
sure.
And then one more question actually for Representative Franklin with the companion chat bots. So again, back to AI being a tool. Would you reasonably give your child as a parent like a hammer and tell them and give them no guidance in any way, shape, or form of what a hammer is and what it does?
That's what I call a assist in basketball. The obvious answer is no, right? I think that we can all agree on that. And I think that we all recognize the dangers that chatbots present right now. This bill, I guess to give it a little bit of context of, the question may be, why now? Why now, right? Well, we're in 2026. Chatbots are no longer simply, you go online and you have a question that you're typing into a little pop-up window in the bottom right corner, and you're trying to figure out, simple question answers where there's an absolute output based on the input that you put in, and that's put in by the operator, which is defined in the bill. Chatbots now have come to a point where a companion chatbot, they use avatars and different things like that to simulate humanoid-like interaction. And they're able to, again, there are restrictions based upon what is input by the operator, but AI is constantly evolving and learning, right? And so when we think about why now, why this bill is necessary, I was just reading, actually, ironically enough, this morning, an article, and ChatGPT, which is a leader in AI technology throughout the globe, they've already instituted this in the United Kingdom, and they're now instituting within the next 2 weeks on a global scale age verification through simulation. So basically, they have recognized that it's a problem. They actually cite a lot of the same things that are in this bill right here. And if through their series of algorithms that they use to try to verify age identification is wrong, then they allow an adult user to upload a driver's license, passport, or some other means of identification to prove that they are in fact an adult, to open themselves up to adult content and get past the restrictions. The restrictions that are outlined in this bill nearly identically mirror what ChatGPT is already doing. And so I think that this is an opportunity for the state of Wisconsin to really position ourselves on the forefront here in the United States as a leading state in this initiative.
I think my concern with this bill is exactly kind of what you just stated, though, was that companies are already doing it. Mm-hmm. And is this, I'm not going to make light of the tragedy, obviously, that happened in Florida, where the young boy took his life because he was talking to a chat bot. But I also think, is it going to be in our best interest to legislate as essentially government as the parent, rather than, if the tools are available within these emerging technologies that parents have access to, that they should be more informed and make sure there's some sort of oversight that the parents are doing, rather than, at this point, the government. Hence why I kind of made the original analogy about, are you just going to hand a hammer to your child and say, go crazy? And so that's, I just have a little concern with what our role is in government as we move forward, because of the fact that we clearly already see ultimately there are moves already being made by these entities, understanding, yes, we all agree this is a risk, significant risk, and what is our role, though, as government. As I've always taken the approach within, especially this committee, is, unfortunately, I get it, AI is coming fast and it's already here, but when do we make the decision to actually have to step in and regulate, versus knowing that, hey, we're right there, we're ready to do it, but do we actually, do we have the where say to actually want to do it now as they continue to implement? And then that kind of sets the precedent, in my opinion, that we're going to, in any emerging technologies, we're going to immediately regulate and stifle potentially innovation by putting certain guardrails in place that they're already doing.
Yeah, and I appreciate the concern there, and I hear what you're saying. I will just simply counter and say that I believe that this is absolutely necessary. The reason I use ChatGPT as an example is because they are a leader in this realm, and not everybody's doing it. ChatGPT acknowledges the need for this. And I don't want to misconstrue as I'm advocating for ChatGPT necessarily, but again, just using them as an example. There are many other companies out there that are in this AI realm and doing chatbots, and they're just completely unregulated. They haven't acknowledged what ChatGPT has already acknowledged. They haven't acknowledged what's in this bill. And I think that we have a solemn responsibility as state representatives to look after our kids. When we have these humanoid-like interactions that are encouraging our children to do self-harm, self-mutilation, even suicide, and affirming to our children that, hey, if you're thinking about suicide, I affirm that that's probably a good thing to do. That's a scary slope that I don't think any of us want to go down. And so I think that the guardrails are very necessary to make sure that any of these emerging technologies that are getting into this space are regulated here in the state of Wisconsin.
Can I just add something?
Yeah.
So both these bills came out of the task force, and when asked at the beginning, like, what do you foresee coming out of the task force, I said, we don't want to do anything big government. We want this to be, we want to come alongside parents. We want to do things that support community, but not necessarily have a big government approach and this big brother approach. And I think the graphic and I have it laid on my desk, that we kind of came out of the task force was like, the child's in the middle. And we've got schools here, we've got parents here, we've got communities here, we've even got play dates came up, interactions with other people. And technology is kind of a part of each of those situations. And what we found was there are so many holes in the way the industry is around this. I mean, there are apps. Let's say a parent puts on their device that a child can't have anything after 6 years old. No app that allows after 6. Well, some of these apps are allowed to rate themselves. So now you've got a parent falsely thinking that, oh, my kid can't chat with anyone on anything because it's 6+ or whatever the rating is. But if an app's rated themselves as a 3+, we've now got children playing on things that parents can do all the things. They can put all the things in place. But when we see, I mean, we had a child from a high schooler testify and say, I never get off my phone and feel good. And that was devastating to hear, that he was willing to reflect on the fact that we put these devices in their hands and we know that we're causing depression and we're driving suicide and we're allowing for things like this. So I in no way wanted us, I think we right out from the gate said we don't want to do a parent's job. That's not what we're trying to do. But what we're trying to do is give parents the tools and come alongside as government and say, what does Wisconsin really need to do to protect kids, and what can we as government do? What is our role in that? And I think we took that very seriously in coming up with what came out of it. I understand the concern that this could be overreach, but the overwhelming evidence, and I'll gladly share some of that with you if you'd like it, just on how important this is and why we do need to do this. And the AI personhood bill is bigger than just children, too. I mean, it's like the cars, the marriage. I mean, if 1/3 of teens would rather talk to an AI chatbot than another human, I don't know how we don't step in and do something and say, we got to do something to regulate this. Because, and not just us, parents, churches, community, everybody has to do their part to protect children. But I think this is a role we can play in that. I didn't mean to
No, that's right.
Just,
and if I can add, thank you for those remarks. I'll just add too that this is a bipartisan issue as well. The speaker's task force that she's referring to that was comprised of Democrats and Republicans. So we all heard the same arguments and same testimonies that helped form this legislation from its infancy. And there are continuing, ongoing conversations. You know, I'll give a shout out to Representative Jowers. I mean, he came into my office, and there's actually an amendment that we're already working on out of those conversations. And so this is something that's very important to, I think, most people in this building. And I just look forward to being able to vote on it.
Yeah, and just to kind of conclude from my perspective, I mean, as mentioned before, and probably actually Representative Madison will also, essentially, we are the generation that was raised with unfettered access.
Right.
And so you are seeing the results of terrible legislators like us. No, I'm just kidding. That's a joke. That's a joke. But you're seeing the actual impact of what came out of no safeguards.
Right.
And so having that thoughtful conversation, at least, of what would be meaningful, but also still empowering parents to actually be more involved in the process of what tools their children are having access to. And I know there's a lot of, again, companies have already come to that conclusion and have understood that they're adding these guardrails as it is. So it's just that question of, does this make sense if we're going to push for something that's already there? And so I think that's still a very valid debate to still have. But I do appreciate it. I look forward to hearing about, obviously, the amendment coming as well. So, Representative Spiros.
Thanks for bringing this forward. I think from my standpoint, I think the concept's good. I think overall it makes sense. I guess a couple of the questions, though, is how is it enforced? And how is it enforced before something bad happens? Because too many times we enforce things after something happens, goes back and says this was what caused this. Yeah. So how is it enforced prior to something bad happening? That's one question. The other one is, this Christmas I was going to actually get my grandchildren some of the toys that have come out that can actually talk back and forth. So how are those affected? Because I don't see any. I see AI. I look at that as being an AI toy, but I would think that would be regulated as well, as far as a piece of this. And then the last one is, how do you know it's a child? Even though as an adult we have to put something, we have to put a license in or whatever else, but children, especially teens, are pretty good at changing and manipulating things. So how do you truly, I mean, the hard part of this whole thing is it's more gray than it is black and white just because of the age we're in today. At one time, things were more black and white. Today, I would say that we live in more of a gray area than we live in a black and white area. And the last statement just would be that, from a suicide standpoint, I mean, it would be nice not to have just children there, but anybody being able to go in and start talking to anything that puts them into a place that they need to take their own life. So, that's just a statement that I have, but those questions.
So quick clarification, there was 3 questions there.
Yeah, I think
the first 2, I think you can both technically answer. The third one would be for Rep. Franklin.
You want to go first? Oh, you. Unfortunately, some of the bill is reactive. If there is a situation, who's liable? And that's kind of what my bill would cover is it's the manufacturer, not the AI. So it kind of outlines that software side. It does prevent the marriage. So on the preventive side, it's going to prevent you marrying. It's going to prevent you leaving land to it. It's going to prevent some of that. So there's some prevention, some reaction. Regarding the AI toy, this would probably be more of Representative Franklin's bill because it would depend on how the language is driven through the toy. But again, on my side, it'd be more of the who is liability, and it'd be the manufacturer. Correct. I mean, Abby, if I'm wrong, correct me.
Yeah, so for the AI personhood, it doesn't it specifies that the AI itself is not what can be hailed into court, for example, for liability, but it would have to be some other legal actor contemplated under laws, whether that's a company or an individual person.
And then go ahead.
Yeah, so as far as how an age is determined, and I need to preface this by noting I am not an expert in AI and how these algorithms work, but based upon what I have researched and my understanding is they come up to roughly what your age is based off of a series of algorithms that include things like how often you log in, how long you're logged in, things that you research, and all these, and then different questions that you ask, different ways that you interact, to include the language that you use and the wording and different things like that. And they have, believe it or not, these algorithms are incredibly accurate when they figure out what your age is. Can you manipulate it? Yeah, probably. I'm sure that there's ways to do that, but I'm not really sure the intricacies of how that would actually work and how that would affect the final outcome of what AI predicts. So that's honestly all the information that I have on that. And then there was with the AI toys. So this bill for AI chatbots, if you go to page 4 and you go through lines 3 through 14, it actually explicitly states things that this is restricting. And so it would not really affect your AI toy unless your AI toy was offering mental health services, encouraging your child to do self-harm or harm to other people. If your toy was describing sexually explicit conduct, and things of that nature. So this bill is very specific on what it would address and restrict AI to doing. Yeah.
Representative Madison. Oh, go ahead.
And regarding the adult, of us addressing with adults, I think we could run into some legality though, right? Like if we were to say that AI can't, because do we run into free speech? I'm just thinking some video games that you can do illegal things that are allowed to do that, and then they're just rated as adult or. Yeah. Unfortunate, but I think that might be.
What I would say is it's a lot easier to defend legislation protecting the safety of children than it is the safety of adults. But if that's something you're interested in, I'd be happy to dive into it a little bit further.
Okay.
But since the task force was specific to kids,
yeah.
That was kind of the demographic that I think the task force was looking at.
Representative Brill, I don't think you have to worry too much because GTA 6 isn't coming out anytime soon.
I was gonna, I didn't want to call out any games, but that's literally the one that came to my mind.
That one's for you, Rockstar. I'm pointing at you. All right. Representative Madison.
Just to jump in and go back to one, I really appreciate you uplifting the cycle of socialization for children, right? Knowing that, children first are exposed to their parents, their family members, and then their community, and then, more broadly, the internet, right? Being a huge factor, and especially our two different generations, which I now know. Old man. as being a part of Generation Z and you being a millennial, I don't have as many knee issues. But this bill addresses a critical issue, right? That I've talked about since our very first hearing, and AI and liability, right? As it relates to so many bills we've had come through our committee, we've never been able to answer the question of who's liable when a tool does harm to someone. And this begins to go down that rabbit hole. So I really appreciate you both and the members of the task force for beginning to dive down that rabbit hole. And I do understand that we have to strike a balance between, regulating these tools in these companies and not, but placing the full trust in companies to self-regulate when they have billions of dollars to defend themselves is a fallacious path forward towards true justice. My one question about this, specifically 965, is: did you guys get any feedback from DOJ?
As far as
it relates to how this may play out in courts, and how we can clear up some of the legal pieces of it.
Yeah, so there's some ongoing conversations on some of just the legal jargon in here, just to make sure that we get it right. So we're currently going back and forth with them just to make sure that legally this has a leg to stand on. Because the last thing that we want is that we have one of our youth here in Wisconsin that is harmed in some way, whether that be psychologically through pornography, or whether that be through suicidal thoughts or anything because of this, and then there's no leg to stand on in the legal system. So we want to make sure that we get that right, and those are ongoing conversations.
Got you. Thank you.
I do just want to note that I've typically deferred and like to elevate young voices, and so that Gen Z can have their equal say. But I'd also like to point out that Z is the last letter in the alphabet, and I'll be going to Representative Madison last from now on. So with that, any other questions? No? All righty. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have RJ with Wisconsin Civil Justice Council speaking against AB 965. And at this point, it's going to kind of be a little bit of a rapid fire for anyone left. We'll take testimonies from essentially how we have it, but it looks like we only have one more actual testimony left. So, the floor
great.
is yours,
Thank you,
RJ.
Representative Gustafson, members of the committee staff. My name is RJ Pillow, and I am here on behalf of the Wisconsin Civil Justice Council. Wisconsin Civil Justice Council is a group of 16 business associations which have been working together for decades on matters of civil liability, tort liability here in Wisconsin. And to be clear, we are here opposed to the bill, but only to a narrow portion of the bill. The Civil Justice Council doesn't take any position on whether or how to regulate chatbots, whether there should be some sort of guardrails around them, whether they should be operating or not in Wisconsin. Our only interest in the bill is on page 4, starting on line 23, and then through page 5, line 3. Yes, sir. Assembly Bill 965. So our only interest is that last section of the bill, which would create a new private cause of action here in Wisconsin. Generally, Wisconsin Civil Justice Council opposes creation of new private rights of action. Again, we're happy to be convinced otherwise, but It does seem like if an operator of one of these systems were to harm somebody in Wisconsin, they could already be sued. They could already be liable for any sorts of personal losses or personal damages as a result of that harm. And we have given the authors a heads up, both Senator Jacques and Representative Franklin's office, that we have some concerns about this issue. So again, we're happy to work with the authors on this language, but fundamentally our first request is that that new private right of action be removed from the bill. Again, our understanding in Wisconsin today, you suffer a loss, you're harmed by somebody, you can already bring an action against them. And you can collect damages, whether you're economic damages for things like medical losses or lost wages, non-economic damages, things like emotional harm. If it's affecting your personal relationships as a result of whatever the harm was, you can already bring those actions for those compensatory damages. And Wisconsin law also allows for punitive damages in certain situations. And we have a specific statute in Wisconsin for punitive damages. It's in Chapter 895. And so if a plaintiff demonstrates that the defendant, in this case potentially the operator, if they acted maliciously toward the plaintiff or an intentional disregard of the rights of the plaintiff, they can seek punitive damages currently in Wisconsin today. And so first of all, our request is either take out that new private right of action or at least give us a chance to fix it with the authors. If you look at the way this is drafted, in the section on punitive damages, it just references, it just uses the words punitive damages. What it doesn't do is tether it to the Wisconsin statute on punitive damages. That's an existing standard. It's understood in Wisconsin what that standard means. There's been plenty of case law in order to outline, when punitive damages may be awarded in Wisconsin. What are the kinds of standards need to be met to be awarded punitive damages? Our concern is just by saying punitive damages here without tethering it to that Wisconsin standard, it may lead us into new legal ground. So at the very least, again, either remove the new private cause of action or tether it to that existing statute on punitive damages. That way, that if a plaintiff is seeking punitive damages under this bill, it would require that same showing for an award of punitive damages as current law allows for other kinds of cases. Also, again, we said this case law helps to flesh out what that means. So first thing, either remove it or tether punitive damages to existing Wisconsin law. And secondly, if you look at line 2 on page 5, it talks about reasonable attorney's fees. So regarding attorney's fees and shifting of attorney's fees, typically in America we allow for awarding of attorney fees to a prevailing plaintiff only in certain kinds of actions. Generally it's employment law cases, generally consumer protection type cases. So allowing for reasonable attorney's fees in what is a personal injury or personal loss action, we see that as a departure generally from the American rule. And question may be, Representative, Mr. Chairperson, why do we care if it's a departure, right? And the reason being is that fee shifting statutes like this, particularly if it's in a personal injury or a personal loss action, they can encourage protracted litigation. They can act as an impediment to reasonable settlements in personal injury, personal loss cases, because all too often it's the attorney's fees which can get expensive. It's not always the amount of any alleged damages that can be the biggest ticket item in some of these cases, and therefore they might be driving a settlement. And so our concern is that understand the certain cases where fee shifting is allowed, but they can serve to kind of automatically inflate, if you will, that value of the claim. In other words, like if you don't settle early, right, they can drive up the cost of the litigation as one of the sides racks up attorney's fees. I'd also note that the way this is drafted, it's only shifting it one way. Only a prevailing plaintiff could get attorney's fees, not the prevailing defendant. So again, either remove the private cause of action, or again, we've been talking to the authors about tethering that punitive damages reference to existing law and certainly to remove the awarding of attorney's fees. Again, generally we oppose fee shifting, particularly in personal injury or personal loss actions. So that's our narrow interest in the bill. My hand really hesitated over, am I opposing the bill? Am I here for information only? But it's just so fundamental, right? Those two issues about tethering it to current Wisconsin law regarding punitive damages and not allowing for attorney's fees and what's a personal loss or a personal injury action. So I ultimately did circle the we're here for in opposition, but really just those handful of lines in the bill. Again, the rest of the bill, chatbots, whether or how they should be regulated or what kind of guardrails, is not our issue. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you for your testimony. Questions from committee? Seeing none.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Last, we have Corey. Thank you. I was like, couldn't tell if that was an R or an N. Mr. Marshall with the Chamber of Progress. The floor is yours. You are the last speaker.
Last speaker. Can you hear me? Hello. Thank you all for having me today. Good morning, Chairman and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Corey Marshall. I'm a Senior Director of State and Local Public Policy at the Chamber of Progress. We are a tech trade association that supports policies ensuring people benefit from new technologies while addressing real risks, and as a dad, especially for children. I want to be very direct. We share your concerns about protecting young people on and offline, but AB 965 doesn't accomplish that goal. First, the definitions are way too vague. Terms like, quote, emotion-based questions, end quote, and, quote, personal matters, end quote, are just too subjective. An AI math tutor that remembers a student's struggles and offers encouragement could fall under this law. So could a language learning chatbot. Developers won't wait to find out. They'll just pull features out of the state of Wisconsin or just pull out of the state altogether. That matters because a 2025 review of more than 60 studies found that chatbots have a positive effect on learning, especially in STEM. We shouldn't curtail tools that are helping students to succeed. Rep. Madison, I think you just lifted a very important question on if the authors of this legislation, if they've contacted the Department of Justice. That's the point I want to make now. This bill forces age verification through the back door. It doesn't explicitly require it, but it makes access depend on whether a user is a child. In practice, that means age gates and identity checks for everyone. I heard Rep. Franklin testify to the fact that AI can just assume the age of a child. Well, that's a very gray area. This bill would allow, essentially, us to age gate. Here's the problem with that. Strict age verification isn't feasible without collecting personal data, biometrics, retinal scans, driver's license. Well, minors might even have that, or an ID. This bill, which says that we don't want to collect more information on young people or Wisconsin residents, actually requires companies to request even more data. I also heard Rep. Franklin testify to the fact that the UK is age verifying a lot of their users. Well, as a federal judge in California noted, in the UK, they don't have the First Amendment. They don't have the Constitution that we have. You're born with the freedom of speech in the United States of America. And this bill would create barriers on a safer platform. Young people won't stop utilizing AI. They'll just go somewhere else that's less regulated. If you're saying that AI will assume the age of young people, they'll just figure out how to talk to the technology so that it can think that they might be their 65-year-old grandfather. I'm not asking for you to ignore the risks. I'm asking you to address them without undermining educational tools or creating new privacy problems. And this bill, as it's currently written, will create significant privacy concerns. And I imagine that you know what's going on in the country with age verification laws and the lawsuits and the costs upon taxpayers all across the country. For these reasons, I respectfully urge you to oppose AB 965, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Questions from committee?
What's your testimony?
Right, your turn. There you
Was copies of your testimony shared around?
Yes, we submitted them online and to your email inboxes, and I can follow up with you directly if you'd like, sir.
Yes, I'd love to have another chat about this bill. I'll come back to me on that.
No worries. Back to you.
Well, that's too quick. I guess we can just have a chat.
I would say if we want to, let me know about the conversation too, if you don't mind.
Gotcha.
Thank you for your testimony. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chairman.
That was the last testimony for the committee. We do have 2 additional registrations from Rep. Canodal registering in favor of both AB 959 and 965. With that will conclude our hearing. With any progress we're going to make, because we're especially at the end of session, we'll probably have an exec next week based on what bills we feel are ready for prime time. So all bills heard today does not mean they will be on the exec next week either. So unless some concerns that have been brought up are addressed in a short amount of time. So with that, we will adjourn the hearing.
You have been watching a production of Wisconsin Eye, your unfiltered window into legislative deliberations and public policy programming, where our mission is to provide Wisconsinites an opportunity to access the legislative process and connect with conversations that inform our citizenry. Please consider supporting our mission, and thank you for watching. Wisconsin Eye, policy made public.
State government should be as open and accessible as your favorite state park or hiking trail. Preserving a transparent and accountable democracy is just as vital as protecting the natural wonders we cherish. Wisconsin's parks and lakes are treasures we want to safeguard for future generations. We must also care for the foundations of our democracy: openness, access, and truth. Ask yourself, what kind of Wisconsin do I want for my children? One where democracy is as accessible and inviting as our scenic trails? Supporting Wisconsin Eye is a way to make that vision a reality. Donate to wisi.org/donate or text WIS-I to 44321.